Okay, welcome. I guess this is probably going to be the third session. At
Mhm.
least that's the way we've done it. We just had ourselves a good meal um, with some Spanish. I had some Spanish ham. We had potatoes with hot sauce, and you had a sandwich,
Vegetable sandwich.
vegetable sandwich, which you don't hear those in the States
Well, the vegetable
much.
sandwich has cheese, egg, and tuna fish in
And lettuce, right?
it. Right.
Yeah, but they're good. I love those vegetable sandwiches. He had his on Spanish bread, so.
Very good.
A little hard to eat, but delicious. Okay, well, let's get back to it. We walked to our restaurants. We got a little bit of exercise in, and now we're looking at focusing more on the ministry aspect, not so much culture, although that may come up, the culture and some of the things that are different there. But you were in, just take us from, you were in Venezuela how many years? And I've got a few questions, and you have some things uh, written down. So let's see where it goes.
Okay.
Tell us about the ministry there in Venezuela.
Well, we were there 25 plus years. Sometimes they say you were in Venezuela as mission work from the time you were accepted with the mission to the time you leave, but actually raising support and other things.
Mhm.
I would say at least 25 plus years of the 29 since we were
In there.
appointed.
Mhm.
So we learned a lot, and I praise the Lord for the time we spent in Venezuela getting to know the people and the ministry, which prepared me for ministry here in Spain.
Mhm.
If I would have come to Spain first, which was one of our options, but since our mission didn't have anyone here,
Back then. Okay.
we couldn't come here and open
Sure.
the field as a new missionary.
But somebody has to be the first, right?
Well, it's a senior missionary.
Right, but somebody has to be the senior missionary, right?
Yeah, he came from Africa.
Oh.
JT Lyons.
Oh, okay. So it can be a horizontal switch.
Right. You can go from another country
Okay.
to open up another country.
Okay.
And so he did, and that's where the ministry, and it opened up just before we went to Venezuela. And I sought counsel. I said, we're interested in Spain, but we've been raising support for Venezuela. And all the counsel I got said, go to Venezuela.
Keep
going that direction. And so I praise the Lord that we did.
Now you have no doubt that was right, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Because the Venezuelan people are, of course, different. All countries, people are different, the culture. But there, I understood them. Here, the people, Pam likes the people of Spain because they're more direct. Mm-hmm. The people of Venezuela are indirect, and you have to know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I fit in really well with that. Mm-hmm. And I understood what they meant when they were maybe not liking something and they were referring to it, but not saying anything directly.
Way.
Exactly. So we were there 25 years, and our main ministry was became threefold. Okay. First of all, was church planning, because we were assigned to a new Bible study group of people meeting in another area, and we were to make help that grow into a church in which the Lord enabled us to do that. But
this in that town, that city,
but we were on another side of the city, the new side, which is being developed out towards the iron ore and steel plants, those plants out there working. So we started that, working with that group. And then after a while, we were involved in two other ministries that we joined them all together. It became a triangle thing for us in our minds: church planning, camp ministry, and Bible Institute.
Sure.
So that the kids would go to camp, be challenged as far as salvation and service, then go to Bible Institute, and they would also be helping the local church plan. Sure. And so we had that type of ministry. This is our shirts that we had for the students and faculty. Bible Institute. The colors of Venezuela on the collar and on the arm, and then
which are the same color as the hats, right?
Yes,
sort of. I mean,
right.
Blue, red, and yellow, huh?
Right, and then the Bible Institute with the triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And then that would be, for the Bible Institute, would be God, the church, and the world.
Okay.
What are we preparing for?
Sure.
To serve the Lord, to serve the church, and to reach the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And so,
Nice.
and this is the one we had for the camp. We're just shirts that we had for people to wear at camp.
Campamento Las Lomas.
Yep. And
Okay.
since we had the Wilds helping us and
Oh,
develop
really?
this,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
we adopted their verse of
Okay,
1
1
Corinthians.
Corinthians 10:31.
Yep. And so we
Go ahead and
had,
show them that. It's just the verse, but I mean the other side.
okay.
Just the back, just the theme verse of the Wilds. Okay. Nice.
And so we had groups come down from the Wilds helping us.
So, describe the camp facilities.
Well, it was it was quite a ways away. It was a 4-hour trip. There's this land that we found. It was in the mountains just before going down the mountains to the coast.
Okay.
And so we drive out that way. And it was a big piece of property that we got obtained through the earthquake that happened in Venezuela. And because of the earthquake, we sent some people up there, van loaded with food and clothing to help out in the different areas. And this one guy was directed up the hill more, up into the higher hills.
With the help, you mean?
With the food.
Supplies,
and,
okay.
Yeah. And he was able to help out there. And then it became a Bible study. It became this. And then this land was available. And and he said, we can buy this and have a camp out there. And so we did. And we took up a number of groups up there for construction,
Sure.
for
facilities,
ministry purposes, services. This guy would go up there every weekend in his van with different things, with different students of the Bible Institute.
Was he Venezuelan or another?
He was
missionary?
Venezuelan,
Okay.
yeah. And that's one thing that happened in Venezuela. We were there, and all of a sudden, God was moving the missionaries out. One lady, single missionary lady, died on the field. Another one retired, and then 2 families also moved to another ministry in Florida and in the States, in Michigan. And so we were there by ourselves for a number of years, 10 years, visiting the lady, single missionary lady, out at the Indian work.
So you weren't that many missionaries in Venezuela then?
Not with our mission.
Okay, I just had the idea in my mind that there were maybe 10 or 12 couples or something.
No,
Okay.
it got down to just Pam and I.
Oh, wow.
And trying to develop the reason why we went to Venezuela, a Bible Institute.
Sure.
And so we were able to start that in a local church, and then it finally developed and developed and developed until the year 2000, when we went to 4 days a week in the mornings from 7:30 to 12:30.
This is the Bible Institute?
Bible Institute, yeah.
Okay, morning classes.
Right, morning classes. And that went on for a number of years until we left, and then a Venezuelan couple took it over, and they're doing it differently because of the economical situation there.
Sure.
But that was what we're aiming at, and that's what the Lord allowed us to accomplish.
Okay, going back to the camp, I always like to try and visualize what it's like. What was are we talking mountains? Are we talking trees? Are there any creeks? Is it all flat?
No, it's high hills, not mountains, but high hills. And the land you come into the property, you go down like this, then it levels out, then drops again, and levels out and drops again.
Okay, this is all the land that's
Right.
part of your. Okay, how many acres are we talking about?
Oof. I'm not sure if it would probably 20 hectareas, whatever that would be in acres.
Whoa, yeah, that's a lot more. We have 17. The farmhouse has 17, which is about 35 acres. So you're talking maybe 40 acres or more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so cabins, bamboo type cabins were put up where it's a brick wall up to a certain height, then bamboo sticks around, and then a tin roof.
Okay.
And then inside, until the Wilds donated literas,
Bunk beds.
that they were changing out and stuff like that. They sent down a whole big container of stuff,
Oh, wow.
and even a kitchen and stuff like that. But
Oh, yeah.
before that, there were hooks where everyone slept in hammocks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we all slept in hammocks.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
very common for camping
Huh.
during that time.
Now, is there a safety issue there? Are you trying to get you off the ground or not? Just comfort or
No,
whatever.
it's
tradition.
more economical
Okay.
just to put up hooks
Yeah,
in
okay.
the wall or in the
So you're
main
sleeping
post.
against the wall, right?
Well, you
Or is
have
the
a
hook-
post in the middle,
Oh.
and then you have your
okay.
two walls,
Yeah.
and then on this side you have some posts,
Okay.
and then you're connected in with a ring,
Huh.
almost like tying up a horse,
Yeah.
and you tie in your hammock there
Hammock.
across.
To the pole.
Yeah.
Or to one of the posts.
But bathrooms for the girls was on the inside. The boys, they had to come out of their cabin and go down a little ways to the bathroom.
What's the weather like?
It's
there?
always, well, they have two seasons, basically.
Dry and wet, or
Dry and wet. So they would call the dry season summer and the wet season winter because it's a little bit cooler. But it's
Okay.
always warm and hot.
Okay.
At least in our area of Venezuela.
Yeah. Okay.
The western side, they would have some cooler weather up in the mountains, Andes Mountains.
Oh, okay.
That's where it kind of begins in western Venezuela and goes down.
Okay. Sports is probably soccer, or
Well,
what did you do at
Venezuela
camps, or-
is big into baseball.
oh, really?
They're part of the Caribbean series with Cuba, Mexico,
wow.
and,
Okay.
and Colombia. Even though Colombia is stronger in
They're in football
soccer,
too. Yeah, soccer.
but they do have a baseball team.
Okay.
And so, but you have a lot of people in the States who come from Venezuela playing professionals in the States baseball.
Huh. Okay. So you had like week-long camps from Monday to Friday, or Saturday, or how did
Yeah,
that go?
Monday to Saturday. We would also have Carnaval camp
To keep them off of the.
keep out of the
What is Carnaval?
debauchery of Carnaval,
Yeah, what
Mardi
is it?
Gras.
Is that what that is?
Mardi Gras is Carnival, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then we would have Semana Santa camp.
Sure.
And then we would
That's
have
Easter.
right. And then we would have camp for younger kids and then teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and on very rare occasions, a weekend retreat.
Okay.
But very rare.
Okay.
Usually 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks out of the year.
You have some kind of special
camp time.
Now, so there was no concept there of summer, fall, winter, and,
No.
and really,
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's always up there in the higher hills. It's cooler at night, and we probably would wear a sweater. But down in the city where we were, it was always warm, and we never had a hot water heater for a long time.
You didn't need it?
No,
The water
the water
was,
come out of the street, it'd be warm.
Huh. Let's see, what was I going to ask? Phooey. Slipped my mind. Something to do at camp. I can't remember. It'll probably come back to me. Okay, so I have here main ministries, and you mentioned those three: the church planning, the camp,
And
and
Bible
the
Institute.
Bible Institute. How about at least from my list, I'm trying to think of what that other thing was, but how about any special kind of answer to prayer stories, anything like that comes to mind, or unusual providence or workings of God?
Both things. I thought through that, and one is I always prayed that the Lord would raise up someone I could invest my life into, and that's what I was always on the lookout for, someone who I thought the Lord was dealing with,
Receptive, yeah.
and wanted to be in the ministry. And then so an answer to prayer would be to different men that God allowed me to work with, and they've done a great job on their own. But one incident happened, stands out, that I was teaching a class, and someone came into the classroom and said to me, there's a man outside wants to talk to you. And the church was right there in the city, and then there was apartment buildings over close by the church. And I was kind of upset. I said, I'm in the middle of class.
Busy.
I'm busy. And I said, so I walked out and talked to him. I said, my wife and I would like to talk to you. She sent me over here. I said, well, can you come at a certain hour, which was I would be out of class and a break while other classes were going on. So they came over and they expressed their desire to know Christ as their Savior. And it was just, and they're great leaders today.
Really?
In ministry in
How had
Venezuela.
they heard about you, or why did they come?
They came because they could see the church right there from there,
okay.
up on the 6th floor, looking
okay.
down on the property, of church property.
So they figured someone there knew how to
yeah,
show them how to know God, right?
yeah, and they wanted to speak to the pastor, which is a funny thing also because someone else came off the street wanting to speak to the pastor, and it was a work day we had at the Bible Institute to clean up the land a little bit. And someone came and asked, I want to speak to the pastor. He's out there working. And they said, yeah. He said, yeah, sure, right. So I was out there. If we had a game, every other Friday was either work day or game day, which we played softball because it was part of their culture. And so we played softball, or the next Friday we would have a work day, keeping up the grounds a little bit, helping out, because it belonged to the First Baptist Church there. We were using their facilities. It wasn't our facilities.
Okay, so this is the Bible Institute?
Bible Institute, yeah.
Maybe I can get a picture of that. I don't know if you have some pictures of that. Maybe we can get some of that to
sure.
We'll put up there. Okay. Okay. Well, I have here, what about Pam's ministries or her involvement in ministry? Where was
she was at first with 2 and then 3 children, being a mom, being a wife. And I would, like I see you out with men at a restaurant eating or having something together. Well, I would always bring them home.
Okay.
And so she would never know. She wouldn't know when I would bring someone home to eat with us.
All right, so she's ready.
Yeah, and so had enough food to share. But the big thing after the children got bigger, older, she's involved in teaching piano, music classes. She was in the Bible Institute teaching women's courses and music in the Bible Institute. And so she was heavily involved with that. Later on, after the children weren't gone yet, but they were old enough they could take care of themselves. So she did a little bit of homeschooling on occasion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We would have teachers come from the States with other groups, and the children of the missionary children would study under that person.
Oh, okay.
It would be like a journeyman, and it would be a teacher.
They'd come for about like a year or something?
Yeah, come for a year or even 2 years, go home in the summer.
Okay.
And we've used them sometimes. Sometimes Pam and I taught our own children. It would be different situations each year. So she was heavily involved in that.
Sure.
And the women at the church, discipling.
Sure, absolutely.
And also women's meetings.
Yeah, pretty much what many times they're involved in. She had the music talent, so that was not all will have that music opportunity, but she did. Okay. One thing that your son Daniel mentioned to me, because I asked him, hey, give me anything you think I should, ask your dad or something like that. And the one thing he commented, he said, well, have him talk about his philosophy of training nationals and leaving them in hand, which is come out, throughout the conversation. But that was obviously, you said at the very beginning, you came in as a ministry of helps to help and training the nationals and helping them get established into the different leadership positions. That was what you saw as a key part of your ministry, right?
Right. As a missionary, at least in Venezuela, I knew that I wasn't there permanently.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so right away, praying and then being like a hawk, looking for that person who was leaning that way, wanted, asking questions about ministry. And so right away, I started investing in people like that, knowing that I would either move on to another place within Venezuela or in the city, another ministry. And so my philosophy was right away look for someone who is showing interest in ministry,
Yeah.
and then start dealing with them personally and
Start investing in them.
investing in their lives,
Yeah.
teaching, being with them, going different places, um, whatever. And we helped a number of people um, go to Bible colleges outside of Venezuela.
Oh, in South America or
South
in the States?
America,
Oh,
in Argentina, and in Peru.
oh,
We sent people there to train, to come back and help with the ministry and starting a Bible Institute in Venezuela. And so the thing was to invest in people, knowing that I would be leaving. And my philosophy was look for someone in my mind better than myself. One, he's a national, he knows his people, he knows his language, he knows how to work with the government. He knows what the limitations are and the open doors are.
culturally as well. And
Exactly. And so to look for that person, and I praise the Lord. If they're in Venezuela, there's one man, Miguel Yusis, among others, who are doing a great job, and they are doing a job better than I could as a foreigner, as someone who you try to do things in a certain way with an American mindset, but it's not really the best way.
Correct.
It might be a correct way,
Correct. Yeah.
but it's not the best way.
I understand. And many times as American missionaries, we don't realize how much of what we do is American, not biblical.
Right.
We think it's all biblical, but really much of it is
Culturally,
our culture.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely biblical core issues for sure, but much of what we do is completely couched in the American culture.
Exactly.
And you get over there and you just do it that way. And then if you ever have an honest conversation with someone from where you're living and you say, what is it that maybe doesn't seem, like from here? And you'll find out a bunch.
right.
Yeah.
I used to get surveys from churches about the ministry.
Sure.
And we'd have to give a report to the church, which I didn't mind, but the questions they asked were culturally American.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so they were wanting me to answer what I was doing in Venezuela, how to compare to what they're doing in the States. And
it's tricky.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose support while you're on the field, but
Of
we
course.
did. And it's just a sad thing because they're judging based on what they do, how they do it,
completely different,
in a different culture.
Yeah, totally. Which is why it's always so healthy for at least pastors to go to the mission fields.
Yes.
And I remember my pastor, Pastor Sweat, back in the early 90s, is when he started really seeing the need for missions travel and going to the mission field. And he has told me, I don't know how many times he's told me that they had men in their church willing to entirely sponsor the trip of other pastors to go with Pastor Sweat to the mission field.
Yeah.
They could not get them to go in most cases. In many cases, it was, I guess, just somewhat of a fear of the unknown, or I don't know. But if they would go, it would transform their entire concept of missions just by stepping out on another country, completely different culture, and just say, wow, this is not the States. And that's absolutely true. So when did you leave Venezuela? The year, I mean?
Yeah, 2000, December 13th, I think it was, 2009.
2009. So when did you begin to see that things were going a little south on the whole ability to stay there indefinitely? What happened, or when did it just start clicking that, we may have our days, numbered here?
the election when President
Oh,
Chavez won, 1996.
oh, that far back.
Yeah,
Oh,
when he came into power as president, certain ideologies and certain sentiments toward Americans
oh,
started to change.
oh, okay.
And that's a letter I just wrote up for a friend of mine in Texas who's looking for asylum. He wanted me to write up a letter to the lawyers
Mm-hmm.
why he was in the States and if he could get asylum
Mm-hmm.
because the way at first it was against us Americans, and then it filtered down to anyone who had the same mentality
Mm-hmm.
of that type of freedom.
Yeah, philosophies,
Right.
and then oh wow, huh. Okay, so and then you ended up. That was probably a little difficult to leave, or
Yes, it was very difficult. uh, Sometimes I say it, but it was true at the moment. But jokingly now, I told Pam that there was a guy going around the street selling plots for burial plots, and it was on sale 2 for 1. And I said, Pam, let's get 2 plots because in my mind I was thinking I'd just stay there and die there
mm-hmm.
and things like that. And Pam said, no way, I don't want to be buried here so I never did get them. But that was my idea
Yeah,
of
stay
just
indefinitely. Yeah,
staying indefinitely. But what forced for me to make the decision was the legality of changing dollars to bolivares. And so we had been changing because when you vote, you put down your ID number. And all those who voted against President Chavez had to buy dollars off the street and not from the government. The government had a low exchange rate. What you could find on the street could be 3 or 4 times more expensive. And so
so you didn't go through banks?
no, not then. And
Oh,
that's why we ended up leaving.
how interesting.
Because we did it first because
There's no other way.
there was no other way. But then when certain hermanos, brothers and sisters who were in the churches, who had businesses, who voted against President Chavez, they couldn't get the preferential dollar. They had to get the dollars wherever they wanted to bring stuff from the States for their business.
Oh my.
And so I would exchange with them.
Yeah.
But I thought it was legal because I was exchanging with them in the States. They had a bank account in the States.
Oh yeah.
I transferred my dollars to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave me bolivares in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So there was no transaction
Correct.
of
On the
solid
street.
money.
Yeah.
But we asked the lawyer, we had a lawyer, and we asked her if it was, is this right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing right? And she said, I'll look it up. And she looked it up and said, no, you're supposed to be going through the National Bank of Venezuela. So I started calculating that if I changed with the bank, National Bank, I would lose 2/3 of my support because of their exchange rate. And so I started making a budget, and I said, we own our house, we can live here on 1/3 of our support.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be basically food and gas.
Mm-hmm.
It would be no money to the ministry, but we could be here.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we said, what will happen when we start to register with the bank to exchange money? They'll ask us, what have you been doing for the past 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Past 10 years. And so I tell people, instead of starting a jail ministry, I said, I think it's time for us to leave. Mm. And so we made that decision. Mm-hmm. I was very angry. I didn't want to leave, mm-hmm. but I thought it was the best time. It was all right to leave then. I don't know if it was the best time. Ministry wise, the Bible Institute was turned over to national leadership. Mm-hmm. The men were church planting themselves. Mm-hmm. The ministry among the youth in camp was in the hands of Venezuela.
So there was a certain maturity level already, yes. in the various
exactly, and I just wanted to be there to help.
Sure, yeah.
Not be in charge of all these things, yeah. Just help.
Yeah,
but that wasn't to be, and so yeah. We made a decision to leave.
Now, outside, you were the only ones there of your mission. So outside of the mission, was that happening with other missionaries as well?
Yeah.
Was everybody finding the same difficulties and all that? I
Yes,
guess?
some stayed. A friend of ours stayed. He was with is with New Tribes. He's now in the States. Excuse me. But they would attend our church because they weren't into church planting in the
Sure,
city, but
sure.
working with Indian work.
Mhm.
And he'd moved out of there to the city and then would make occasional trips out there,
Mhm.
or they would meet in a halfway point.
Oh, okay.
He
With
would pay.
leadership or something, or
Yeah, he would train the leadership. The leadership would go back and
Yeah.
teach the people,
Sure,
which was, I think, a great way too,
sure.
so that the authority, the people of the community would see the authority upon them teaching and
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Mhm.
So very few stayed, most left.
Mhm.
Most of the missionaries left.
They were sort of squeezed out.
Right. We're
Political
not kicking you
economically.
out,
Yeah.
but this is what you can't do anymore.
Yeah, making it so hard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me see. I think we've done a good chunk already there in Venezuela. How about if we take a break and we do one more? And this is where we would focus on your transition over to Spain and a little bit more of what you have here. And anything else that comes up, if you want to share anything from the scriptures, you can do that. And yeah, we'll take a break for now and be back in a little bit.
All right.